All right, so last week I made $37,000 trading Forex, and these are all the trades that I took last week. I'll call all these trades in a Discord server. I'll put a link in the description. You can join it if you want to follow my trades. In this video, I'm going to break down every single one of these trades, why I took them and what happened. And then additionally, what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to show you some of the trades that I'm already in this week, as well as some of the trades I'm looking to take. By the way, if you're a regular viewer of my channel, hit the like button. If you're just finding me for the first time, don't hit the like button. Wait till you get to the end of this video, and then if you want, hit it. But if you're a regular viewer, hit the like button. I'm doing a little experiment here with my channel. I'm trying to see something, so I'll leave it at that. So let's go ahead and get into it here. The first trade right here is GBP JPY. So you can see there was two positions. It was the same trade. Made $20,000 on it. So GBP JPY, I sold up here at this resistance zone, and then whenever price bounced away from this resistance zone, the trade hit the profit target. So you can see price was just here at a resistance zone on the daily 4-hour chart. Sometimes I'll glance at the weekly, but it's really not necessary. The weekly kind of takes forever to set up anyway. So most of the time I just kind of hang out on the daily, wait for price to get to major zones, and then I just kind of use it in combination with the 4-hour because it breaks the candlesticks up into a little bit more. All I do is I buy at support and I sell at resistance. That's my whole trading strategy. I've been trading for almost a decade. I've made millions of dollars in Forex, crypto, and stocks. And I've just found that simple buying at support and selling at resistance, along with a little bit of discretionary trade management, just works the best. And it's easy. Like for me, I barely have to do anything. I look at charts less than an hour a day. It's usually probably like 15 to 30 minutes a day, to be honest. It's just that simple. So I had my alert up here when price got here. I sold. Price had a little move away from this zone. It hit the profit target. My stop loss was just above the zone, and my target was just below the zone. So it was a 1-to-1 risk to reward ratio, and it hit the profit target, and it was a nice trade. So that was that. So then we had GBP CAD next. We had a GBP CAD sell. So I'll show you the first GBP CAD entry that I had was right here where this yellow arrow is. Now when we go to the daily chart, you see the reason why I took this trade was pretty straightforward. Price was at a major resistance zone, and when it came up there, I sold. That's it. So after I entered that trade, what I saw is that price looked like it was kind of like failing to break past these recent lows here. So, my entry was sitting right here midway through all this, and I thought it was going to kind of pull away, but as it started to like stretch towards the upside and make all these higher lows, I ended up closing that trade at close to break even. You can see it was a small profit, but after fees and swaps, it's probably just a break even. And so I closed that there. This is at 18769. That was the first entry. And then when it went up deeper into the zone the next morning, that's where I took this next trade right here. So after I closed, sure enough, price spiked up deep into the zone around the previous high. And then I just simply entered a sell right there. So I entered a short position, and I have my stop above the zone and a target below it. And that was it. All the exact parameters, they're all here in the Discord server. So you can just kind of go through and check the history. For example, like this is my EU trade. We're going to go over all this in a second. But all the actual parameters with the specifics and the stop loss and profit target and everything, it's all right. It's all in here because I post the screenshots of my terminals where I call trades in this group. That's why my clients love this group, because it's very easy to follow along. I just put I'm long on this pair. This is what I'm risking. And then I just put the actual screenshot of the terminal showing the entry, the lot size, the stop, the target. And then I put my P&L terminal as well, so people can see the margin percentage and everything. I make it real easy to follow. So that was the GBP CAD trade. So this next one that I took ended up working out. So the first one was break even, closed right there at around break even, small profit. Second one was a profitable outcome. This next one was a Euro USD, so it was a loss. I think it was the only loss last week. So you can see on the daily chart, I did the same thing I always do. I waited for price to get to a resistance zone on the daily. Then I sold. So my stop loss was above the zone. It was up here. My target was something like this. So the trade looked something like that. This one ended up going up and then hitting I think I closed it just before the stop loss. So it was a $30,000 risk. You'll see there's no red line on the left side. The green lines are if it hits a TP order. The red lines are if it hits a stop loss order. But you can see none of these actually hit stop this past week. Everything was closed manually with the exception of GJ. So I closed it just before the stop loss. So the stop loss represented about $30,000 of risk. That's how much risk I put on the EU trade, and it ended up going up, turning into a loss. So I closed just before the stop loss at 26,000. It would have ended up going and hitting the stop loss. So I saved a couple $1,000 by managing it dynamically. So that was the first EU trade. Then when it came back into the zone, I thought it might bounce, so I took a buy like this. So it looked something like that. And you can see that buy right there was closed around break even. So I bought it, 1.774. So when we go to the actual chart here, it was 1.774. So something like that. So that was the entry. Whenever it stopped moving, I just closed it at break even last week. So, I entered, it initially started kind of bouncing, but then it started kind of pulling back. And I was like, I don't know if there's a lot of momentum here. And, last week on that day, I believe it was Friday. And I just was like, I'm just going to get out of this before the weekend. Doesn't look like it's going to work. That would have ended up going deeper and then pulled back into the zone, gone to a little bit of profit, but then now would still be sitting below the zone. So that's why it's really good to use discretion whenever you're managing positions. You can get yourself out of trades that end up being a pain in the ass. You can take losses a little bit earlier that are smaller than the original intended stop loss. And you can also hold your profit targets all the way to their target area. So that way you're just making more than you lose. So even if you're only right half the time, when you are right, you just make a little more than you lose whenever you're wrong half the time. It works great. Then you just start risking large amounts per trade like me, whether that's, $100, $1,000, $10,000. Sometimes on these trades, I'll risk anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 on a setup, depending on the context and what I think the probabilities are. And then there's trades where I make like $50,000. There's trades I make like $70,000. A couple weeks ago, I had a $100,000 day. In the past month, I've calling these trades out in my group, I've made like close to $200,000 in profit after fees and commissions. It's crazy. So whenever you're managing things just with discretion and dynamically, it really works really well. So that's Euro USD. Those were the sells. Those are the buys. The last two here is Euro JPY and GBP AUD. So we'll go to Euro JPY. You'll see that I sold right here at this resistance zone. So we'll go to the daily just so you can see what it looks like. It's just a resistance zone. Price bounced there, price bounced there. I drew the zone, and when price came there, I sold. Now you'll see the outcome of this was that it made about $30,000 profit. So whenever price hit this zone, I sold. The entry would have been somewhere up here. Stop loss would have been above. Target would have been a 1-to-1 risk reward ratio. It just fell and hit the profit target. So if you want to see the exact stops and targets or whatever, just you can go into this group whenever you join. You can scroll back up further. It's all there. I mean, in fact, let's just go take a look at it right here. Euro JPY. Where's this sweet position right here? All right, so there we go. I just closed Euro JPY there. So what did it look like when I closed it? So this is what it looked like. So this is on the H1, just to get a kind of a closer visual of it. Again, remember, all my analysis is based on daily and 4 hour. If just because I show the H1 or the weekly doesn't mean anything. It's all based on kind of daily and 4 hour usually. But this was just to show that it was falling into profit. So it looks like my stop is at 174.23, 174.23, right? Something like that. And then my entry was just, here at the zone. And looks like my profit target was a little bit further. And I closed just before the profit target. So this setup looks something like this right here. But yeah, that's what it looked like. So that one worked out. This was, at that point in time, you can see the total profit had been $175,000. And then we had swaps and commissions. But then, of course, we had a 40K week last week. So, it's a little bit more than this now. So like I said, like almost $200,000 just the past month. I mean, it's just so crazy. I love trading. And that's just in Forex trading. That's not even counting crypto. Okay, cool. So that's all that. So we got the last trade, which was GBP AUD. This last little sell right here for 25 lots. So GBP AUD, I sold because price was at this resistance zone. The entry was somewhere in here. All the specifics are there in the history of the Nick's Trades group there in Discord. And I sold. And then when it started going sideways, I just thought it would be less likely to work out. So I ended up just closing it. So I believe I closed it somewhere over here. But this was the essential trade. It was just a sell at this zone. So something like this. Looks like it might have ended up actually continuing to whatever my target might have been. But then again, you win some, you lose some. I closed this early and it ended up, would have worked out. So it is what it is. I had an alert to sell again up here, and it looks like price almost came up into that region the past day or two, but it didn't come all the way back into the zone. So, I'm sitting here on a trade that I missed, and I could have made like $20,000 or $30,000 on this, but instead I closed it out last week at roughly break even. So $1,800 profit after fees, commission swaps. It's probably pretty close to break even. But still, nonetheless, it was a $37,000 week after swaps and commissions. It was a pretty good week. And now what we'll do is we'll go into some of the trades I've taken this week. So let's go ahead and have a look. So we're coming into this week right here. First trade of the week, I'm short on Euro GBP, $20,000 risk. This is how I call every trade. Very, very, very simple. I don't put a whole bunch of crazy analysis. Everybody knows I just buy at support, sell at resistance. And then all I do is I show the actual terminal here. So you can see the $20,000 risk, sell right here, take profit below, $20,000 risk, $20,000 gain. And then I put the screenshot of the terminal in there. That way they can see my exact entry price, the lot size, the margin that's used up, everything. That was the first trade of the week. The second trade of the week was I'm long on NZD/USD, $20,000 risk. So I got long at NZD/USD. You can see here reviewing it on the weekly, but again, just remember my trades are taken on the daily and the 4 hour usually. But every now and then I glance at hourly, weekly, things like that. But I just bought at the support zone. It's easier to kind of see on the weekly, the support zone, because the candles get broken up too much on the daily. So yeah, I put a stop below the zone and a target above. So it's either going to bounce or it's not. So I got long on NZD/USD, $20,000 risk, stop loss, target, entry, everything shown. So this was yesterday at 7 a.m. I put them in the same positions. That's what they looked like yesterday. And then you'll see yesterday in the afternoon around 1 p.m. I did some position management. So check out what I did here. I'm short on Euro GBP, and that's where the stop loss was. What I decided to do, because again, my risk can go up from 20 to 50K, kind of depending on the outcome. I think that based on all the time frames, right? The daily, the 4 hour, the weekly, the 1 hour, I think that Euro GBP really does have a good shot at bouncing here. And so whenever I went to look at this in the weekly, I examined it and I thought, you know what? I could stop out just above this high, but if price stops out above that high, it could go all the way to this high right here and then have a huge bounce. So what I elected to do was, instead of closing this position at a loss or, adding to it here, instead what I decided to do was just to extend the stop loss above the highs. So what this does is it adds about $20,000 of risk to the trade. So my initial risk was 20K. Now the risk on this trade is 40K. That's still within my risk tolerance and risk threshold. So I did it instead of adding like I was going to do. So now I've moved it up there. It increases the likelihood of this playing out and not ending in a loss. You can see where my original stop loss was in gray, and this is me just tapping on MetaTrader 5 and just dragging it up further. So it was 20K risk, now it's 40K risk. So that's just to visualize where the stop loss was and where I set it. So now it gives the opportunity for price to come to that high and then have a bounce. And then it could come down. And perhaps I'll add to it, perhaps I won't. It kind of depends on the specifics there. I generally try not to put any more than $50,000 of risk per trade. So if I do add, it'll probably need to be like a $10,000 risk or less. Cool. So that's what I did. I moved the stop loss on Euro GBP. NZD/USD remained the same yesterday. You can see holding the original positions. This is what it looked like at that point where I did the position management, moving the stop on EG. So it's 10K loss. And I'll also, in my group here, what I'll do is I'll do a TLDR. So TLDR is an acronym for too long didn't read. It's if you don't want to read all this stuff I post, even though it's not that much. It's if you just want to know, all right, what do I do? What did Nick do? Then that way you can take that, and if you want, you can copy it. So I do this whenever there's a kind of a lot of content. That way, like if you're at work or something, or you're with family, or it's night and you're sleeping, you're half asleep, I do that so that way you can very easily see exactly what I did. So that way, if you're copying my trades, which is, at your own discretion and at your own risk, because I can't guarantee anything because trading is risky and most people lose money. I do the TLDR little note. So that way it's easy for you to just see that and be like, okay, he just moved the stop and then kept everything's the same. So that way you don't have to even read through everything if you just don't have the time, or you're too lazy, or you just don't really give a shit. You can just do the TLDR. This group is there for you to make it as easy as possible to follow my trades. That way you can learn through experience and perhaps start doing it on your own, maybe even make a little bit of money in the process. So I moved the stop on Euro GBP to double the distance it was originally. The risk gone from 20K to 40K, and NZD/USD remains the exact same. So little one sentence TLDR. So this morning, 6 a.m., I'm closing NZD/USD here. So this was the NZD/USD position. You can see we started going towards the stop loss on the daily time frame, and this just broke the recent set of lows. So this is on the 4 hour right here. I just thought, price has already tried to bounce here a couple times. Now we're breaking below the lows. I just thought it'd be a better idea to close it. This was a 20K risk, and it ended up resulting in about a $14,000 loss. So roughly 3/4 of the way to the stop loss, right? A little less than that. And then I remained in the Euro GBP position. So that was NZD/USD. So NZD/USD was a loss, and I put it right here, the closed terminal for the positions this week. Yeah, and I remained in Euro GBP. So here's the next trade that I took. I called this earlier today at 8:30 this morning. So about 2 hours ago, to a little over 2 hours ago. This was the analysis. You can see that USD CAD is at the resistance on the daily time frame. So the 1-day chart, price came into the resistance zone. So as usual, my same boring approach, I just sold at resistance. That's all I did. So you can see right here, here's the entry. I sold right there. There's multiple positions, so sometimes they'll all get covered up. And then I put the stop there and the target here. That is why, in addition to the chart terminal image, that way you can see visually why I took the trade, right? It's at a resistance zone. You can also see all my positions in my terminal because I post it right under whenever I call these trades out to make it super easy to follow. That way, I mean, you barely have to do anything. Like I do all the hard work, so that way you can just do what's easy. So you can see here there was 3 positions USD CAD, each 25 lots, so a total of 75 lots and $30,000 of risk. USD CAD, I've entered a short position. The risk is $30,000. Stop loss entry images, stop loss take profit and entry shown in the images above. And that's all the trades this week. You can see this is the end of the server so far. So we're in those trades. Let's have a look at how those trades are actually going right now. So USD CAD is pushing, looks like pushing deeper into the zone. So USD CAD, the entry was like, right around here. So it's in a little bit of drawdown right now. The stop is way far away on the other side of the zone. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to move an alert up to that high right there because I might be adding right here around that high. I think that would be a really good location to add if price could get there. And so then I'll increase the risk on this from maybe 30K to 50K. We'll kind of have to see what it does. And then there's Euro GBP, which I'm still in this trade. The daily, the weekly, the 4-hour, this all still looks great to me. Price is just here at a little weekly resistance zone, daily, weekly, 4-hour resistance zone, whatever you want to call it, higher time frame resistance zone. So I essentially have an entry here like you saw. It's a little bit lower here. And then the stop, remember the stop was up here, but now I moved it to double that, which is up here. The original profit target, I might extend the profit target because as of now, it just looks kind of like, something like this. I might extend the original profit target. That way we can get at least a 1-to-1 risk reward on it. And that would then present like the opportunity to make about $40,000 if I don't even add to it. So we're going to see, I'm going to have to manage this dynamically. To be honest, it's not looking the best just because if price is going to fall, it should have already done it. It's had the opportunity to fall there and then here and then here. And then now currently it has the opportunity to fall. But instead, we just keep kind of finding support here. Price just keeps kind of like stopping and making some higher lows. Again, I don't think this is going to do anything in the bigger picture. What will happen is it will break above the zone or it will break below the zone and go to profit. Those are the 2 outcomes, without overthinking anything. And I think that right now, especially since we still got a weekly candle open in this area, I think it's worth a shot to stay in. Sometimes price will stay up in a zone, like in this case, for like 1-2 weeks before finally having a tug away from it. And sometimes you just have to be patient. Other times it's better to not be patient. It's better to get out of a trade that's not working. But in this, I don't see any reason to not hold this trade. So I'm just going to keep holding it. Another potential setup I'm looking at, however, I'm not quite confident how sure I am I'll take it because I'm already in USD Canadian dollar. This is a correlated pair, USD JPY. What is the setup? Price comes into resistance and I sell. And then if it bounces, I make a profit. That's it. That's the whole analysis. What would the actual entry look like? Well, it'd be somewhere up here, right? You can see I've got my alert here around where these previous highs were. And let's say it hits there and starts to bounce. So my entry is a little bit lower than that resistance zone where the alert is. My stop loss goes above the zone, so probably something like that, right? Not too close because you don't want to get pinned out if price just has a quick spike above the zone and quickly comes back. That happens a lot. So you don't want it too tight, but you also don't want to, it doesn't need to be like that far either, right? Something ridiculous. Then to just get a 1-to-1, you have to target deep into the next support zone. That's just ridiculous. It's just unnecessary. So I'll put my stop something like this probably, right? Something like far enough above the zone where if price has a little like liquidity spike past it and comes back, it's not going to take me out. And then of course I can still close it manually if I like. The cool part about this is that if you're just going for a 1-to-1, price barely has to have a move off the zone for you to get your profit target. That's a 1-to-1 risk reward ratio. You only get this if your entry is at the zone. It has to be inside the zone. It has to come to an area where price has bounced out a couple times. So here, bounce to support right there, and then resistance here again. So as long as you're like trading just at the zones and inside the zones, then that's usually like the best way to go about it, just in my opinion. Because then you can put your stop right past it, and your target, you barely have to target anything if you're going for 1-to-1. Even if you're going to 1-to-2, you can get a 1-to-1.5, 1-to-2 pretty easily without having to do anything too crazy with the stop loss or the entry. But yeah, I like to set things at least 1-1 when starting out the trade. Sometimes I'll hold the trades longer and extend it to a bigger risk reward ratio, but I usually set up the risk parameters with just 1-1 because I know most of the trades that lose aren't actually going to hit the stop loss. They'll get out before. And most trades that win will hit either the take profit or very close to it. So it ensures that my winners are a little bit bigger than my losers. And that's how I've made close to $200,000 just the past month doing this alone. Just simple support resistance, doing barely anything. So that's USDJPY. NZD/USD, I'm looking to re-enter, but price has to come down here into this region. So looking at the higher time frames like the daily and the weekly, you can see this is still a reasonable support resistance zone, right? We had a nice little bounce here, a little bit more shallow into the zone, so a little bit higher up. I think if we come down here, which is where that previous low is over here, that's where I have my alert at, I think we should be able to see a little bit of a bounce, right? Even if we just see a little bounce and then price does its little like descending triangle thing and ends up breaking below at some point, I do think that this move here off the zone, right? This little bounce, if price gets into there, I think that's more than reasonable. So the trade would look something like this, right? An entry somewhere around there, stop loss below the zone, target of a 1-1. You know, it's less than 100 pips, right? Less than 100 pip stop, less than 100 pip target. I could really see this playing out, right? I mean, you're not asking for anything crazy. You're just asking for price to hits the zone, some people take profit, buyers step in for a second, you have a little move up, and then the profit target will be hit. And then if price just wants to make lower highs and go back below the zone, that's perfectly fine, right? It'll probably do it somewhere in there where all these little like lower highs are all being formed. So this would give a good profit potential on that move without you having to play any mental gymnastics or do any schizophrenic paranoid analysis. Just a little bounce at the zone. That's all it is. Just a little bounce at support zone. Everybody relax. We're just buying at support, selling at resistance. So that's all I've got for all the analysis. There's a couple other trades that I've set up, but they're kind of like they're past their opportunities right now. So I'm just kind of waiting for the time being. I don't really see anything else. What I will be watching for the rest of today is USD CAD. I'm looking to potentially add on this. And if you are not in any of these trades yet, I think USD JPY, if she can get up here to this resistance zone, I think she presents a pretty good opportunity as well. Just for a little bounce away from the zone, right? Nothing crazy. We don't want to try to hold throughout the whole range. The likelihood of that resulting in profit is just less than if you're just targeting a little bounce away from the zone. So I will be remaining in Euro GBP. I really, I want this to work out. It looks fine. I don't really see a reason to close. So I'm going to be holding that for now. And then I'll be holding USD Canadian dollar. So now if you've made it here to the end of the video, you're one of the few people that have made it here to the end of the video. What I want you to do in the comments below, type the number 24 in your comment. So, and if you're new to my channel and you thought this video was helpful, then hit the like button on the video, please. That would be nice, because again, I'm doing my little mysterious experiment here. Hit the like button, then go in your comment, put the number 24 in there, like somewhere. Just be like, hey Nick, I watched your video and found that I have a 24-to-1 risk to reward ratio for all my trades. Or put like, man, I had a 24 win rate this week, but I still made $24,000. Just something funny like that. That lets me know that you made it to the end of the video. And that's just cool, because I get to see who's watching my videos and I get to engage with you guys. And if you ask a question in your comment, you have the number 24 in it, I know that you actually watched the whole video. So that way you're actually worth responding to, instead of somebody that watched the first 30 seconds, minute or two, left a comment and then left the video, right? If you made it here to the end of the video, it's a very big deal to me. And I love you guys that are actually watching these whole videos and getting all the value out of it, because I take the time out of my day to make these videos for you guys. So watching it all the way to the end is just like a very respectful, complimentary thing to do for me. So I appreciate that. If you also made it here to the end of the video, what I'll do is I'll give you free access to my Telegram channel. My Telegram channel, it's a free Telegram channel I've been running for about 7 years. And I post some of my screenshots, analysis trades in it. So it's just this right here. You can see today I've posted some analysis. I put my analysis on USD CAD, which I've already discussed with you guys, and also USD JPY. All that stuff I talked about here in this video is right here in this Telegram channel. I'm going to put this link in let's put it in the pinned comment. That's what I'll do. I'll put it in the pinned comment here in the comments. So just scroll into the comments. That first pinned comment will be this. I shared the P&L from last week, some of those trades as well. Same thing with crypto. I post some of my crypto decisions in here that I'm doing. I just kind of post, it's just kind of here to help you just in a very simple way, learn how to trade. And I don't know, maybe it'll help you. Maybe it won't. Maybe you'll think the Telegram channel is stupid. But I've run it for, like I said, 7 years as a free resource to help anyone who wants to learn how to trade completely free. So you can join that. That's the free Telegram channel link in the pinned comment. And I'll see you in the next video, my friend. Have a good one.